Hi, Dr. Peterson. So since studying your work, one of the things that I found most fascinating is your analysis of the story of Cain and Abel. And my question is, if Cain got to the point that he did right before killing his brother, murdering his ideal, and decided that that was something he didn't want to do, what advice or guidance would you give a person that got to that point?
Well, there's a story I read called The Cocktail Party. I've mentioned this before, by T.S. Eliot. And in The Cocktail Party, there's a scene, it's a play, where this woman approaches a psychiatrist and starts talking to him about her problems. And she says something that surprises him. She says, "I hope that I'm the problem." And he says, "Well, why would you hope that?" And she says, "Well, I thought about it a lot, and if the world's the problem, then I'm done because I can't change the world. But if I'm the problem, then maybe there's something about myself I can change, and I can undo this terrible situation that I'm in." And so I would say that's repentance fundamentally. It's like, and I say this carefully because I understand that people are susceptible to bad fortune. Sin and ignorance can make that worse, but independently of that, like, good people suffer, make no mistake about it. But if things aren't right for you, if you're resentful about being, because that's the right way of, because that's the deepest way of thinking about it. If you read the writings of the people who do the mass killings, for example, that's what you see over and over. It's Cain. It's like they're angry beyond comprehension at the intolerability of being, and they're angry at God. Even if they don't say it exactly like that, they come so close to saying it like that there's no difference. You know, what God says to Cain is, look to yourself first before you criticize being. And that strikes me as right. It's because to not do that is arrogant beyond belief. That's satanic arrogance, literally, if something like that can be literal. It's like, don't make yourself the judge of being before you clean up your room, let's say. And the other thing too, this is something I learned in some part from Solzhenitsyn, when he was in the prison camps and trying to understand how these heroic people he saw could possibly manage it. One of the exercises he undertook, and he really viewed this within a Christian Orthodox context of repentance and redemption, is he said he went over his life with a fine-tooth comb and tried to imagine all of the ethical mistakes he made in his entire life that he knew were mistakes, right? It was a soul search, he wasn't relying on external standards of morality, except insofar as we're inevitably influenced by those. And then his idea was, is there something I could do right now to put that right? And that's the right question. Like, if things aren't going your way, and I think that means that you're resentful and arrogant and deceitful. Those are the three things that clump together, I think, that constitute the core of evil. It's something like that. And so if you're possessed by that, which is a hell, then it's repentance that's the right answer. And what that means is you have to figure out what you did wrong, and you have to pay for it. And then at least you could think, well, look, I can try that with all of my soul, let's say, and see what happens. Right? It can at least be an experiment. And then I would also say that that's an act of faith. It's an act of faith to conduct that experiment. Because you put yourself on the line, right? And that's what an act of faith is. You don't know the outcome, but you don't know the outcome of your life. So to live in some sense is an act of faith. You're putting faith in something. That's why you're moving forward. You couldn't move forward without an act of faith. You know, and people say, well, I only move forward on the basis of the facts. It's like, yeah, but you select the facts, and there's an infinity of facts, and they don't just tell you what to do. So it's not a credible answer. So if you're in that situation, it's like, look to yourself. You know, and one of the things about Solzhenitsyn that's so bloody amazing is that's what he did. And then he wrote the Gulag Archipelago, and, you know, he took an axe to the intellectual and moral substructure of the totalitarian communist states. So while he was redeeming himself, let's say, he was simultaneously redeeming the world. And you see something like that, like you got to wake up, man. That was really something.